Tonight, GJA bears teeth at the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Armed Forces and the National Security after recent brutalities against journalists as it issues a 7-day ultimatum with threats to blacklist the security institutions and pursue legal action.
We expect these demands to be met within 7 days from the date of this statement.
We have details as the GJA says the era of impunity is over. My name is Faustina Safo. Top story as always is brought to you by Telecel Connecting Energies. Please stay for details. Thanks for your time. Tonight, the Ghana Journalists Association has had enough. The association has vowed to take action against the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Armed Forces and the National Security following a string of recent brutal attacks on journalists. At a news conference a while ago, the DJA issued a warning that they will blacklist the 3 security agencies and pursue legal action both locally and internationally if swift action is not taken, in some cases within the next 7 days. The latest provocation was on Wednesday when there was a brutal assault on JoyNews' journalist Carlos Kaloni, who was struck twice in the neck from behind by officers. The officers seized his phone, damaged his camera, and dragged him to the National Security Office. Only the personal intervention of the Interior Minister secured his release. Now, the GJA's message is clear. Journalists will no longer be intimidated, harassed or brutalized. Well, join me now in the studio is Kenneth Jesse. You've been in that news conference all day. Just highlight some of the key concerns they're raising. And let's start with the reaction of the GJA to the recent attack on Carlos Kaloni.
Of course, Faustina, so this is not really the first time that the GJA president has condemned Carlos Kaloni's attack since it happened yesterday. And just today, they made it official. And the Ghana Journalists Association has said that it is deeply concerned and troubled by what they call a disturbing trend of blatant aggression against journalists in Ghana. And the president of the association, Albert Jumfo, said what happened to Carlos when he was assaulted and unlawfully dragged by uniformed men while on live television amounts to censorship and must be rejected outright.
The GJA is deeply concerned and alarmed. Our anger is rising during this period over the persistent attacks on journalists in the course of their lawful and constitutional duties. These attacks are not isolated incidents, but form a troubling pattern of aggression, impunity, and blatant disregard for press freedom, media rights, and the rule of law. The GJA is also deeply troubled by the attacks and unlawful detention by national security operatives of JoyNews journalist Carlos Kaloni and his cameraman who were covering the recent demolition of the Magdan warehouse in Accra, owned by businessman Daniel Macaulay, popularly known as Magdan. This arrest and detention were not based on any justifiable legal grounds. Rather, they appear to be attempts to suppress information and silence scrutiny of the demolition exercise. This is censorship, true force, and must be condemned in the strongest terms. We demand that the Ghana Police Service and the National Security provides a public explanation for the arrest and detention of Carlos Kaloni and his cameraman. Additionally, we request the immediate release of any findings or internal reviews conducted regarding the uniform officers involved. Acknowledging the presidency statement, a step forward but not enough. While we acknowledge the statement as an important symbolic gesture, we urge the presidency and the government as a whole to march west with decisive action. We call on the government to direct all security agencies to act promptly on reported cases of abuse against media personnel. Introduce clear policy measures and training protocols to ensure state actors understand and uphold media rights. And last, publicly support prosecutions and disciplinary actions against those who violate press freedom, regardless of rank or political affiliation. Over the past month, the GJA has documented.
Well, Ken, the president also mentioned that the GJA is equally concerned about the number of journalists that has been assaulted this year.
He gave a troubling statistics, and according to him, there have already been about 12 assaults on journalists. Well, yes, he gave worrying statistics. According to him, there have already been about 12 assaults on journalists in just 7 months this year alone. That is on average 2 assaults every month, and that, he says, it's scary and a sign of growing impunity. He pointed out that in many of those cases, no one has been punished, and in his words, the perpetrators have walked free.
Over the past month, the GJA has documented a growing list of attacks against journalists, including physical assault, arbitrary arrest, cyberbullying, and obstruction of reportage. We have counted 12 so far this year, which is very alarming and scary. In most of these cases, the perpetrators have either walked free or received minimal sanctions that do little to prevent reoccurrence. And colleagues, let me reiterate and let me say that the data available to us, the information and records available to us indicate that the average attack on journalists every year stands at 12. So if we have already recorded 12, even before the end of the 7th month, it is very, very scary and alarming, and it's very unfortunate. These attacks have taken place in parts of the country perpetrated by both civilians and uniformed security operatives. Journalists covering elections, crime scenes, protests, demolitions, and other public interest activities have been subjected to harassment, manhandling, and in some cases detention without legal basis.
Ken, and there's more to this, really. They're also concerned about the assault on journalists, especially during the Ultimatum North parliamentary rerun. What demands are they making?
So the Ghana Journalists Association says it is, in its finding, it finds it baffling that weeks after the incident happened, the public has not been told who exactly was behind the attack on GH1's reporter. And they are demanding that the police publicly explain why no one has yet been brought to book.
Colleague media practitioners, the GJA finds it baffling that weeks after a senior police officer was captured on radio attacking a reporter with EIB Network, Mr. Emmanuel Banayene, during the Ablekumanov parliamentary election rerun, we are yet to hear of the concrete actions taken by the police administration on the perpetrator of the act. Because apart from issuing two statements saying the officer has been interdicted and another that the officer has been charged, we are here to evidently see that the said actions have equally been taken. Till today, the police has reluctantly failed to present the officer before court. This creates so much suspicion, and also raise concerns as to whether the police truly charge this officer. It raises suspicion and so many concerns. A JoyNews reporter of the multimedia group, Salome Nati, was also assaulted in Ablekumanov while she was diligently covering the parliamentary election rerun in the constituency. This was not only a personal assault, it was an attack on the Ghanaian public's right to know. Violence against a journalist during a democratic process fundamentally undermines the credibility of that process. It chills free expression, threatens transparency, and sets a dangerous precedent for future elections. We acknowledge the recent communication by the Ghana Police Service indicating that the officer involved has been charged. While this is a welcome step, the GJA insists that charging alone is not justice. Justice must be seen to be done through a swift, transparent, and fair prosecution that results in meaningful accountability. We urge the police to come out publicly on the identity of the two suspects they claim they have arrested and give detailed information of their arrest, as we have stated in the GJA request letter sent to them last week. And like I did mention, till today, the charged police officer has not been arraigned before court. And so let's ask ourselves, is the police being sincere and honest with us and the public?
They're making some demands really to the Ghana Police Service and security agencies. What exactly are they asking for?
Well, they're demanding a detailed update on all journalist assault cases in the last 7 months, a public report on the Ablekuma case, disciplinary action against officers involved in attacks, and specific measures to prevent future incidents. And they are also giving the police 7 days to respond. If nothing happens, they say, they will boycott all police-related activities.
This was not only a personal assault, it was an attack on the Ghanaian public's right to know. Violence against a journalist during a democratic process fundamentally undermines the credibility of that process. It chills free expression, threatens transparency, and sets a dangerous precedent for future elections. We acknowledge the recent communication by the Ghana Police Service indicating that the officer involved has been charged. While this is a welcome step, the GJA insists that charging alone is not justice. Justice must be seen to be done through a swift, transparent, and fair prosecution that results in meaningful accountability. We urge the police to come out publicly on the identity of the two suspects they claim they have arrested and give detailed information of their arrest, as we have stated in the GJA request letter sent to them last week. And like I did mention, till today, the charged police officer has not been arraigned before court. And so let's ask ourselves, is the police being sincere and honest with us and the public? Okay. Now this is our demand. Demands to the police, to the Ghana Police Service. And the demand is tagged as time for action. Time for action. The GJA hereby demands from the Ghana Police Service as follows. 1. A detailed update on the status of investigations into all reported attacks against journalists across the country within the past 7 months. 2. A public report on the prosecution of the police officer involved in the Ablekuma incident, including timelines and court proceedings. 3. Clear disciplinary action and sanctions against officers or individuals who have assaulted journalists, whether in uniform or civilian attire. 4. Specific measures the police service is putting in place to prevent future attacks and to train officers on respecting press freedom and media rights. 5. The police should do the needful by writing or responding to our formal request. We have formally written to the police requesting a full investigative report on all assault cases, including but not limited to that of the Ablekuma North elections rerun. And we need that to be done. We expect these demands to be met within 7 days from the date of this statement. And I want to reiterate, I want to take this again. We expect these demands to be met within 7 days from the date of this statement. Failure to do so will leave us with no option but to advise all media houses across the country and our members to boycott all police-related activities and declare them as enemies of press freedom.
And Kenneth, just finally, before I let you go, they also have some demands when it comes to the military as well.
Faustino, they are equally upset with the military. The GJA is demanding that the armed forces furnish them with the names of the officers involved in the Carlos Coloni assault within 7 days. And if not, the association says it will take matters further, including embarrassing the military, suing the officers for civil assault, and petitioning ECOWAS and the UN to blacklist those involved from international peacekeeping missions or promotions.
And men in the police uniform. In a blatant show of disregard for media rights, the journalist was obstructed, hit at the neck, arrested, harassed, dealt with. This is what we are going to. And men in military uniform. In a blatant show of disregard for media rights, the journalist was obstructed, hit at the neck, arrested, harassed, and detained while attempting to gather facts and report to the public. This arrest and detention were not based on any justifiable legal grounds. Rather, they appear to be attempts to suppress information and silence scrutiny of the demolition exercise. This is censorship through force and must be condemned in the strongest terms. We demand that the Ghana Police Service and the National Security provides a public explanation for the arrest and detention of Carlos Coloni and his cameraman. Additionally, we request the immediate release of any findings or internal reviews conducted regarding the uniform officers involved. So any findings or internal reviews conducted regarding the uniform officers involved. The media must be allowed to report freely on public matters without fear of reprisal. We are public interest media, and we must stress that. And so we should be allowed to go about our duty without fear of favor and without fear of reprisal.
Now let's get into this and just speak to Professor Kwesi Enin. He's a security consultant. I also have Dr. Ishmael Norman. He's president of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies. We appreciate your time, gentlemen, here on Top Story. I'll start with you, Professor Kwesi Enin, really. I just want to get your initial thoughts on this. We've been hearing from the GJA tell us that they are no longer going to countenance shambolic condemnations with no action. This time they want to see action. The reason why they're giving the Ghana Police Service a 7-day ultimatum to provide a public report on all the status of assault cases regarding journalists. In your view, is this a realistic demand?
Well, I mean, it can be useful, but probably it ought to have been a quiet engagement prior to the public ultimatum. Let me make this point here. Journalists are a critical part of our political, economic, and security government. You know, they work hard, or they attempt to work hard, in bringing us the news and playing an oversight role. The relationship has been tense over the last couple of years. I'm not sure the interventions that have been made to clarify where these understandings are. Be that as it may, I think a conversation with the GJA makes a clear list instances of these atrocities. Who was involved? What was the context of the misunderstanding? The type of physical abuse or psychological abuse for that matter, and then to use that as a basis for the engagement. I mean, off the top of my head, in the last 5 years or so, quite a number of these cases have taken place. So it's necessary, it's useful, the engagement that has begun. Although an ultimatum has been given, it does not take away the GJA or the security institutions that they have made this appeal to. It's also taking a step in opening a dialogue and to say, how can we improve the relationship for the betterment of the people of Ghana? I think it's a needed conversation. And the earlier it is had in a trusting, collaborative environment, the better for all of us.
But is dialogue enough, really, at a time where we're just hearing from the GJA tell us that within the first 7 months of this year alone, there has been 12 different cases of assault on journalists? The reason why the GJA is this time demanding that the police should provide a public report on status of all the cases before them.
Yes, but that is what I've been asking or talking about. That we need a status report, what involved, the context, the parcel, damage cost, all those things, so that we can find out the pattern and the kind of engagement that we need, so that we can train or provide further training for the statutory security. Because the relationship between the two institutions are very important. Okay, so we cannot use the cases for this year alone as a basis to cut off the engagement. No, some of these relationships are tense, they are difficult, and we need to make it clear. You cannot slap somebody around because the person is doing it on the way. But because both institutions or all these institutions play a critical national role, then we cannot have a situation in which one party says, I will not allow this group to do their work, or one group also says, you are not creating an enabling environment for me to deliver, and therefore I cannot work with you. Without the media, how do we get access to the information? The critical information that allows us to make contributions. But it is a natural tense relationship. But we can and we must move beyond the tension and to define and design a set of protocols that allows media people to do their work. And for those who flout these protocols unwittingly or deliberately, to be punished according to the statutory rules of the organization for which they represent.
But the biggest concern is that some of this punishment, we want to see it publicly. The GJA has threatened to boycott all police-related activities and declare them enemies of press freedom, especially because they say they want actions to be taken. Do you think this strategy is effective?
It will not be. And let me be very blunt. You know and I know that the behavior and attitude of some of your own leaders is also not professional. I can cite example in my own case where simple interviews have been misconstrued and misrepresented by the online text. That does not give the basis for me to come slapping people around. Not that I'm strong enough. But you need to also recognize the need for improved professionalism, the usage of the access that you have in providing information in a manner that inures to everybody's benefit. Your work necessarily means that you are critical, and that criticality can create tension. But those tensions must never lead to threatening behavior. So both sides have a lot of work to do. We cannot run away from it. But violence cannot and must be used as a tool of intimidation.
There are already calls for the national security agencies to act promptly, especially with the case of Carlos Coloni, who was abused in line of duty. Now, do you believe that these agencies, they have the resources, training and commitment to address some of these issues of assaults on journalists?
The national security is, and I think there's a misunderstanding about this. When we use the physiology of national security, it is a conglomeration, I hope I have pronounced correctly, of all security institutions supported by a secretariat. So when we talk about national security, which component of that group are we talking about? Are we talking about all of them? Or we are talking about specific institutions? Irrespective of which institution we are talking about, the president has made his position very clear. And I think it is the service chief, together with the appropriate minister, who must now crack the whip and ensure that institutional rules and mechanisms for discipline are applied. Yes, I believe that the institution have enough internal mechanisms to identify, punish the person or the persons who have flouted their rules and brought the name of the institution into disrepute.
Okay. Now, just before I let you go, finally, though, I just want to understand standard procedure with regards to Carlos Coloni case, where he was whisked away by the national security and taken to Blue Gates. I just wanted to find out, during a demolition exercise, is it okay or standard procedure for the military and the national security to be present?
I don't know about those procedures, but if and when Carlos was picked up, the routine procedure would be for him to have been allowed to make a call either to his lawyer or to his employer that this is happening to me, I'm being taken here, so please follow up. If he was not given that opportunity in a democratic and a democratic expectation, then that embellishes my point that the institution that flouted his rights and following up on the president's strong statement must use its internal mechanisms first to identify and to discipline the people involved and to send a clear message that that kind of behavior will never be tolerated.
Thank you so much for your time here on Top Story. Professor Kwesi, he's a security consultant. We appreciate your time. My name is Faustina Saf. I'm handing over the baton to my colleague Pearl Ofori and Kenneth Jesse for Newsnight.